A new OTT show, Chiraiya, has brought a difficult conversation back into the focus: marital rape and the silence around it. In India, forced sex within marriage is still not recognized as rape under the law. Despite years of debate, the legal system continues to treat consent inside marriage very differently. So, why does this gap still exist? What does the law actually say? And is there any real possibility of change? I'm Sonakshi Awasthi, and today I'm speaking with Rosemary Raju, a lawyer who has handheld several marital law cases to understand the legal reality, the history behind it, and what the future might hold. Hi, Rosemary. Welcome to the Federal.
Hi, Sonakshi. Thank you so much for having me here.
All right, we're going to delve into the questions right away.
Right.
India still does not have marital rape law as such. So, what are the legal reasons behind this, according to you?
See, the reason why India does not recognize marital rape as a crime is because of the exception that is carved out in Section 63 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. This, of course, is preserved from our old act, which is the IPC, which, of course, takes it from the colonial law. Right? But I think in my opinion, this exception is carved out from the fact that a married woman is a separate legal entity, and the ordinary standards of consent are very highly diluted. I'm using a very soft word here, dilution. It's non-existent.
Right.
So the concept of consent changes जब सिंदूर लगाया जाता है और मंगलसूत्र पहना जाता है. That's the problem. And we have to do away with it because you have to understand that the fundamental rights of a person, not a woman, not a man, not a child, of a person as an Indian citizen is carved out in Article 14 and 21.
Right.
This provides for bodily autonomy. You cannot take that away from by carving out an exception in a criminal act. That is where the legal gap comes, right? Which is why it's not criminalized.
Okay, so if we go a little back in the history,
Yes.
where is this coming from?
Colonial rule.
Okay.
So I will go back to the colonial rule where marriages, when two people are married, you ask the wife, will you obey your husband? Now the term obey is construed in a manner that she has no bodily autonomy. She belongs in as a person, and her body and her property as a part of the husband's. It gets merged. So there is a loss of that, how do you put it? Not just bodily autonomy, any autonomy, which actually is enshrined in our constitution. So your right to life is not segregated by married women or unmarried women. If you're an unmarried woman and somebody rapes you, you can walk into a police station and send this person to jail. Why should it be that when you get married, this autonomy is taken away? Just because it was a part of colonial rule. Things are changing.
Right.
Slowly but surely, things are changing. But now it is time for the law to move forward and make those reforms.
But so many colonial laws were actually like written off a few years ago.
Yes.
Why not this particular one?
So actually the funny part here is the colonial rule, which is the Great Britain, which gave us this rule, has moved beyond it.
Right.
They have changed it.
Right.
So international standards of law.
Also in England,
it's marital rape is criminalized.
Okay.
So you have to understand that where India got its law has changed the law.
Right.
But India is still in the process of changing it. At least I'm hoping that it will be changed.
Okay. So the law assumes consent within marriage. In today's context, what is that assumption still hold like any validity?
In my view, no. And this comes from a great social change that we have had of late. Of course, with the use of internet, with the use of social media, a lot of information is being imparted to not just a particular strata of women or men. It is also with the other strata. So even the underprivileged are now becoming aware of their rights. So you have to understand that we as a country have moved forward as a rights-based country. All the people now are more aware of what their rights are.
Right.
Courts are more easily accessible, right? When a situation like this comes, you have to agree to that social change. And therefore, there has to be legal reforms. Unfortunately, in our country, the social change has been faster than the legal reform. But like I said, slowly but surely, we are reaching there, hopefully.
Right. So, according to you, what are the strongest arguments against criminalizing marital rape?
So there are two, which is primary,
Right.
which is misuse.
Right.
And as per the central government, the affidavit that they've put in the case right now in the Supreme Court, they say dismantling of the institution of marriage.
If we come back to the misuse,
Yes.
what
So
is the
this is the, so I'm going to give you an example, two examples, two laws that are being misused right now in India, in marital laws, to give you an idea of how the misuse happens.
Yeah.
So earlier in the IPC, we have 498A, which is domestic violence and cruelty. Earlier, a husband or the in-laws could be arrested if there was a complaint made under 498A. But the Supreme Court has watered it down because there was grave misuse, and there is grave misuse. As a person who practices matrimonial law, I would certainly say there is misuse. But they watered it down. But with the watering down, what happened was it became powerless and toothless. The law exists in name, right? So now what happens is the police is duty bound to send you a 41A notice if there is a complaint under 498A saying that please come and join the investigation, we are not going to arrest you. So the fear doesn't exist anymore. The impact of it doesn't exist anymore. That is one part of misuse. The watering down will happen, right? Then it becomes completely toothless. Now, in my opinion, misuse cannot be an excuse to right a wrong.
Right.
Let me ask you a question. Will there not be a misuse of every other section
Precisely, yeah.
of the BNS?
This cannot be an excuse. Absolutely.
It cannot.
Yeah.
We have to move past the... See, that is why we have a legal framework. We have a legal procedural acts to take care of the implementation of these laws. We have a court. There are rigors of trial that parties have to go through to prove the truth and the falsehood. So when there is falsehood, you can file malicious prosecution suits. It's not used in India at all. Technically, if somebody files a false case against me and there is an order of a court saying it is a false case, I can file malicious prosecution. But how many people do we know who actually use this law or the law of perjury? It's not used as much as it should be. The second aspect of misuse is, second law that is misused is the POCSO Act.
Oh, yeah.
So in matrimonial law, 498A was misused. So after 498A is watered down, they started putting 354, which was sexual harassment. They will file it against a father-in-law or a brother-in-law. But again, the minute you attach 498A to it, it becomes watered down. So now what is happening of late, what I'm seeing is, the complainant starts adding a POCSO. So that मेरी बेटी को ऐसे किया father-in-law ने या husband ने. So then to attract the criminalization.
Yeah.
So what is happening is because of the watering down of this 498A, the misuse of other laws are also happening. Nobody's trying to curb this. So why is it that when a woman is married and a woman has a right to bodily autonomy, misuse should be used as an excuse to not allow her to use that right or to put her perpetrator in jail? It's not right. And the other argument is the dismantleization of the institution of marriage. See, instead of looking at it like that, it is time for this country to change its perception about marriage and to steer it towards the constitutional rights of dignity and bodily autonomy. So instead of giving it a negative light, calling it the dismantleization of the institution of marriage, make it healthier. If women know their rights, I must stop myself here and say, actually, if men know their liabilities, then the institution of marriage will flourish further. That's the idea. So both these excuses are just an excuse in its name. You can't give it a legal color at all. At least that's my opinion.
Yes, a couple of years ago, I actually had interviewed one of a woman actually I had interviewed who had gone through this marital
Mhm.
rape, and she asked me this one question. We had a lengthy discussion over things. She asked me this one question: how do you prove in court? How
Okay.
can you ever prove what happened in the bedroom?
Okay. So I'm going to correlate this to adultery,
Mm,
right? In the laws in India, you don't have to prove the sexual act to prove adultery.
right.
Circumstantial evidence is enough
Mm,
to prove it.
mm,
So there are multiple ways. For example, the relationship with the paramour and the person and the husband or the wife, whoever is the adulterer, can be proved through phone calls, late night phone calls, hotel bookings.
right.
The law is now changing to preservation of these things
Mm,
because that proves in
Mm.
court that, in fact, there is a Delhi High Court judgment, very, very old judgment, where I'm not sure the justice's name, but he wrote that if a man and a woman who are unmarried are staying inside a hotel room, they're not singing Bible prayers.
mm,
So there is an assumption that
Mm.
happens there. So I'll again come back to that. In adultery, you are willing to assume there is adultery.
Right.
But in marital rape, you are assuming there is consent,
Right.
which is completely disparaging to women.
Yeah.
You can't, that presumption of consent is, it's not just the presumption of consent, it's the presumption of irrevocable consent. It's not a contract you're signing with your wife कि आज के बाद you will never say no. In fact, in my opinion, it's not just about marital rape. In any relationship, even if it's consensual at the beginning of that relationship, both persons have the right to stop it midway and revoke their consent.
Absolutely.
Why is it different when you are married?
Mm,
It's this discrimination is unconstitutional.
Right. Okay, so how do courts currently deal with such cases when a
Um,
wife alleges?
Yes. So there are three ways.
Mm.
One is, like I explained, the 498A.
Mm.
It becomes a part of cruelty and domestic violence. So you file a police complaint, it goes to the woman's cell, then it becomes an FIR, and an investigation happens, charge sheet is filed, trial happens. Right? The other law that you can put into action is the Protection of Women Against Domestic Violence Act. Now, there is a section 18 of this act which allows the complainant to procure protective orders, protection orders. These protection orders will basically say that the husband cannot do further acts of sexual violence against the wife.
Okay.
Now, the benefit of this is that if there is a violation of this section 18 orders, there is a section 31 which deals with the violation, and there is jail time in that. But do you realize how long drawn that
Yeah.
is? First, you have to file the case, you have to get a protection order, then there has to be a violation. But again, the initial act of sexual violence, there is no jail time. It is only if there is a violation of that order there is jail time.
Right.
A jail time would mean consequence. That technically the consequence of proving a domestic violence act against your husband is compensation under section 22. Which is just money. No one is going to jail because now the Supreme Court there is a judgment of Kunappa Reddy which says that it is quasi-civil and quasi-criminal. So you have colored this law civil and you've taken away the criminal color of this law. The other aspect is you can file a divorce case, you can allege mental and physical cruelty, and you can obtain a divorce. Again, civil in nature. Then you can ask for alimony, again money. No one is going to jail.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, a sexual violence case and nobody is going to jail. All right. So compared to other countries, where does India stand on this issue? You did say that England has written it off.
Yes.
What about other countries?
So in the international spectrum, of course, most of the countries have done away with it. We are, of course, lagging behind. But like I said, the Supreme Court is currently hearing this. So the reform is on its way. At least that's what I would like to believe. We don't know what the Supreme Court will do. But if it does criminalize, we are progressing internationally. But if you ask me politically, where are we internationally? Because the affidavit filed by the central government says do not criminalize marital rape, the political part of our country is still stagnant and is still lagging behind this progressive movement. That becomes problematic in the international sphere because we are then seen as a regressive country where the laws of the humanitarian rights of women are not recognized. that becomes problematic.
Do we have other countries who still have marital rape as not as a law?
Afghanistan. I don't want to touch it, but
Mm.
Afghanistan.
Wow. Okay. Well, okay. We've touched upon the misuse. So, from the cases that you've seen, what is the real impact of this legal gap on women, especially?
You know, it's very sad because this injury is called rape.
Mm.
But when a married woman comes to court, she has to rename it.
Yeah.
She has to call it domestic violence. She has to call it
No
cruelty.
choice. Yeah.
No, it's not her choice.
Mm.
It is the unfortunate part of this law
Yeah.
which forces her
Yeah.
to change the name of the injury. So basically, you are willing to protect all the violations around it, but not the injury itself.
Mm.
You have to rename it as something else. In a way, protecting the perpetrator.
Mm.
By not criminalizing marital rape, you are protecting husbands.
Mm. Yeah.
That is the
Yeah.
bottom line of
Yeah.
it.
So, I mean, in your experience, I mean, the kind of legal cases that you get, what effect does that have on women, married women?
See, you
I
have
mean,
to
it's a
answer.
prolonged exercise any which way.
Unfortunately, yes, the litigation in India is very cumbersome.
Yeah.
It's very expensive. And you also have to understand that this law of 498A or any kind of 354, everything is made keeping in mind the underprivileged,
Hmm.
but is being misused by the privileged.
Right.
So, because of this misuse, it trickles down to the underprivileged who actually now have to suffer from it.
Hmm.
So, let's say a case comes to me where a woman is, violently sexually assaulted by her husband.
Hmm.
It pains me to not go to court and scream it out and send the person to jail.
Hmm.
But forget my pain. What about her pain?
Yeah.
She can't even call it rape. It's unfortunate. And our legal system has to move towards more protection of human rights. See, we have to walk away from this gender bias. We have to walk away from this protection of a class of people
Hmm.
or a wrongful discrimination of married women. We have to walk away from this and we have to keep in mind that all our laws have to support basic human rights.
Right.
It's an internationally renowned concept of law, which we as a country have to recognize at this point. Otherwise, like I said, societal change has raced past legal reforms.
So I think there is this one sect which is very aware of the fact, or maybe like a little confused also, but knows at least what is marital rape.
Yes.
I sincerely think that there are many people, many women who do not understand the term also.
They don't.
They are
Because
very oblivious to that,
in
unfortunately.
this web series,
Yeah,
Chiraya,
Shreya.
the mother of the girl
Mm.
says, "Na ka to sawal hi nahi hai."
See, yeah.
Because her mother has taught her this.
Mm.
So there is a concept that I would like to bring in here. See, in our country, there is now Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao.
Yeah.
But साथ साथ बेटे को भी सिखाओ.
Mm.
If you don't teach your son
Mm.
the moral rights and wrongs,
Mm.
the law can protect whoever they want.
Mm.
But morally, your son needs to be taught that. That's the societal change we are still lagging behind. See, the concept of Raja Beta still exists.
Of course.
And it is taught in households. For example, the concept of courtesy is taught at home. And if you teach your son to not touch you as his mother without permission, that itself will bring great change in the institution of marriage. That is what is necessary in this country.
Mm. Okay, so beyond law, how much of this issue is rooted in the societal attitudes of people?
Like I explained, it's har ghar ki baat honi chahiye. So see, nowadays women are independent. They bring the money to the table. In fact, they sometimes create the table. But men are not equipped to deal with women like that. Many men, they have issues because their wives earn more, or they have issues because somebody else's wife is more successful in the career, etc. This concept still comes from very old age traditional values being held by even mothers.
Of course.
So even still, female infanticide has not been eradicated entirely. It
Right.
still exists. These are concepts that have to change. So apart from the legal framework, what can we do as a society? Chiraya, it's doing it.
Yeah.
See, the
It's
end.
at least got us to talking.
Yes,
Yeah.
the end was unfortunate. But what can the filmmaker do? The end has to be this. There is nothing else. There is nothing in the law that protects a woman, a married woman.
Right.
So, but let us do that. Let us get it to tables where these discussions are happening. And more importantly, not women. It is the men who need to talk about this. It is the men who need to say that we are ready for this change, so that in fact our lawmakers will do so.
Coming to my last
Yes.
question, what do you think is the future of this particular?
I am
Do you think there's going to be a
waiting
lot-
with I'm waiting with bated breath
Mm.
for criminalization of marital rape, for sure. I think the entire women population of this country would certainly be on my side here and would be waiting.
I don't know how much of that will is possible, honestly, because like I said, most of the women are not aware that this is marital rape.
But
I
that
think
is
there
where,
should be a little bit of education on this also.
yes, but with the societal change, like for
Right, of
example,
course.
with the fact that there is so much internet,
Yeah.
we can do so much more. But again, the government has to decide to do it. You and I can't walk into the street and make everybody in this country aware. But the government has schemes in place
Yeah.
to do that, and they should do it. But when the government itself is opposing this, that's when the problem lies.
Right.
But if now the courts do take it a step forward in the way of progression, then the government will also be forced to impart this education to women. That'll be the best way forward.
It was lovely
Thank you.
chatting with you on
Thank
this
you.
topic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.